London presents more live comedy than any other city in the world. Comedy clubs are popular venues for nights out on the town, and each one presents a different type of atmosphere. During an exploration of the best clubs in the comedy scene, we discovered Up the Creek. It's located in Greenwich, which is also home to the Prime Meridian and the Old Royal Naval College. Up the Creek was voted top comedy club in London by The Guardian magazine. Most other comedy clubs are in downtown London, like Piccadilly or Soho, but Up the Creek remains unique, as it is more of the hole in the wall. It was opened in 1991 by the infamous Malcolm Hardee, and has remained a pivotal step for comedians on the rise in the London comic circuit. The club is known for special events like open mic every Thursday. These are very popular and booked 3 to 4 months in advance, with comedians of varying levels of experience. The club hosts people as early as their first gig to seasoned comedians of 13 years. We interviewed comedians of all different levels performing at that club about their experiences and ideas on British comedy.
I eat far too much. I wish I could come up here and lie to you all and say it's glands, it's, issues with the environment and, the state of play, whether or not G8 is going to change the monetary fund of mortgages and shit like that. But I think I need 2 fucking months to go exercise for shit. I decided to get into comedy in 1999 or 1999 because of Robin Williams, Whoopi Goldberg and Roseanne Barr, because they were all comics and then actors. So that's why and when.
I've always loved comedy, or from when I was really young. I loved it. But I never, for a million years, thought I'd get into it. I knew I loved it, and then I kind of fell into it. Really, it was just I saw the guys coming through, and I was like, yeah, I'd like to have a go at that, and then ended up doing it. now I do it.
I kind of fell into it in a really weird way. I'd always wanted to do it, but I hadn't sort of plucked up the courage to do it. And a friend of mine who I was at university with just booked me a gig, basically. She was putting on this variety night of like bands and poets and stuff like that, and I ended up doing a gig, and it was a disaster, but I got enough laughs to not realise that, and then just I kept doing it from there.
So I'm Jim. I'm originally from a town in Essex called Raynham. Does anyone know Essex at all? A few people do. It's got a reputation as being quite rough, but I don't think it's necessarily that fair. I mean, I had quite a nice upbringing. My dad took my brother and I to Lapland when we were kids, and not many kids can say they've been to Essex's premier strip club.
I've always been the sort of person to make people laugh at work and in the bar and with my friends, and being able to make people laugh has been just something I've been able to do all my life.
I haven't always led a Christian life. I lost my virginity when I was at school. Of course, we both got in big trouble. She got expelled. I had to seriously reconsider my career as a teacher.
And I've always fancied doing it, so I saw... Actually, what happened was, I was working with a guy who'd done his course in stand-up comedy, and it gave me the impetus to try and have a go myself.
I've always loved live comedy. It's always my favourite night out to go to a comedy club, and I've recently moved back from Spain, where I lived for 7 years, and I was completely starved of live comedy there. So doing this course kind of combined my favourite night out with a bit of writing and meeting people.
I'm at that age now I'm looking for any sign of ageing. Grey hair, new wrinkle, there's time you piss your pants when you cough.
It's kind of a bucket list thing as well, isn't it? It's supposed to be the scariest thing to do, and I've done it. So.
A few of the comedians we spoke to are brand new on the scene, and we felt their pre- and post-stage nerves as they took to the stage. Most comedians experience a lot of the same things when they're just starting out and trying to get laughs.
I had done 5 minutes of stand-up on an open mic slot, which is where you just go and have a go. And it was in a bar, and I knew there was an open mic slot. This is where I live. So I went to this bar where there was an open mic comedy night. They give you 5 minutes, and I had a few drinks before I went on, and I went on, and I just made it up as I went along.
Picture the scene. Turn we set on. The announcer would say, and now, continuing our Continental Film Series here on Channel 4, we present a dark tale of desire and erotic awakenings. Sounds fucking good, doesn't it? But of course in my world I'd hear, And now on Channel 4, for all you teenage boys watching, One Time.
And I tried to make people laugh, and I did, basically just by being rude. And the ruder I got, and then the more filthy it was, the more people laughed. And then I reached a point where people weren't laughing anymore, and I realised it was time to go.
So when you start, the gigs aren't like that. There's going to be 3 guys in the audience in a pub in Hammersmith, or wherever, somewhere in London. There's going to be 3 guys and a dog, and you've got to go out there and try and make the dog laugh. You know, you don't. That's what trains you to be a good comic. It's not necessarily the ripping the gigs. It's the ones where there's 4 people just staring at you. I think that's what people need to understand.
I was absolutely terrified when it came to the showcase night. The whole day I just couldn't function doing anything, and standing at the side of the stage here before I went on was the most terrifying 3 minutes of my life. But I got a good reaction, I think. I didn't forget any lines. That was my main thing. I knew once I got my first line out it would be fine. So yeah, I want to continue now, so looking for some more gigs.
A couple more seasoned comedians have been doing this for years, but are still learning.
So if you could give me your iPhone, then we'll go through this game, and we'll all have a lot of fun. I don't know. Let's see what happens. So what's your name, by the way, sorry? Eve. Hello. Hello, Eve. So I could do anything now, couldn't I? I'm tempted to just text everyone in your phone saying, it's done. I'm drunk with power. And also gin. So now what we're going to do, we're going to play a game, it's called Game of Gnomes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through your contacts, right, and I'm going to say a name, and you've got to say one thing about that person, and it's got to be negative.
In my comedy career, I've travelled, I've been to America, but I didn't have the front or the bottle, alright, or the balls to go and do it in America. But I've travelled the world doing stand-up, and I've done a bit of telly, and, you know, just been funny, really.
I've been doing it for about 4 years, so that's still relatively new in the sort of grand scheme of things. I'm learning new stuff all the time. You're always, if you're progressing, you're always new to something, so you have to just basically kind of stay willing to learn and accept that there's still new stuff you need to do. Like at the moment, I'm in the process of doing my 2nd full-length show, so that's kind of difficult because for the first one I had every funny thing that's ever happened to me at my disposal, and I had all the material built up, but now I've got to do a better show in a much shorter time.
I'm hopelessly impractical, simple, everyday things cause me problems, like changing my duvet cover. I don't know how you people do it. It's like trying to get a cloud into a condom.
All the performers we spoke to share one common denominator. They all can say they performed at Up the Creek. This club has helped many famous comedians like Al Murray get their start and remains true to wanting to help new talent.
It's just a really well-known club. It's a sort of real main part of the circuit.
I've actually been here for a night out, a couple of nights out actually. I live just down the road, and this is one of the major comedy clubs in London.
Always kept true to his concept of giving stage time to up-and-coming comedians.
That's what tonight's all about, it's supporting your friends and family who are doing their comedy debuts tonight. So it's all about supporting them, don't heckle them. We're doing a DVD for them tonight, so it's all about supporting them, yeah? So to get in line, we've all got to do a nice bonding exercise, keep it all nice and friendly tonight. So come on everybody, both arms straight up in the air. Straight up, mate, I know it's probably been a while for you, straight up. Now bring them down so they're in front of you like so. Nice and relaxed. Now this is a clever bit, pay attention. Just move them out to the sides a couple of inches. And slowly lower on to the genitals of the person next to you.
It's the key place in London to go. It's a proper comedy club with real people. You know, there's not. You know, it is one of the best. I'm going to say it's one of the best in the world because it's a proper comedy club, and so people, all friends of mine, would come down here to celebrate birthdays and things like that. It was always like, oh yeah, we're going to go to the Creek. We're going to the Creek. It's always been around the Creek. It's been around. I mean, it's been, what was it, about 20 odd years now? Yeah, 20 odd years. It's just always, everyone in London knows or has been to the Creek. It's a key. Yeah, it's a key. It's like a cornerstone of the comedy circuit. And any comic worth his salt wants to get up on that stage and perform here. This is when you know you've arrived, when you've played up the Creek.
At any level in the game, performers need to continue to create new material to win over the audience and get tickets.
This isn't music, like this is just pictures of Carl Walker.
To create my routine, it's my life. It's just me. I find me funny.
Things that make me laugh, and things that I see, and I just think, that's really weird. Like sitting in a coffee shop. You go and I don't know, like we're in a coffee shop now, right? But you go and order a coffee and you see it in the back. You just notice that there's not small, medium, large. There's like Massimo and Maximiltimotto and Minimo, and they make up words for something that already exists in real life.
I try and sit down with an empty computer screen, but nothing tends to happen, and then I go out and walk the dog and it's there, and I have to get something to write down, otherwise it's gone.
Just by looking around you, just by things that happen, and you get, the longer you go on doing comedy, you get a sense of what would work in your set and what won't. Like we've all got stories, funny stories that you go, oh, that's a funny story. But if I go on stage and tell that story, there's a couple of hundred people that aren't going to understand what I've just said. They're going to go, well, you know, it's going to be like you should have been there kind of moments. So you get a feeling of when something, you go, oh, that's actually a good idea, and you work on it. You go along to a new material night, and not even, you'll just say the words. It's not even having a punchline. You're just talking, just to get the idea starting to kick around in your head. Because there's always a bit of your brain as a comic that's just always working. Even when you're doing the dishes or you're going shopping or something like that, you just got this one bit of your brain that's always like just turning ideas over and thoughts, and it's just a constant. And that's where your material comes from. Looking around you and just plugging into this bit that's in your brain.
The jokes told at a comedy show in London will be vastly different than American comedy.
I had that heart-stopping moment the other day when I looked in the mirror and I saw my mother's face staring back at me. Turns out it wasn't a mirror, it was a window she put around her cupboard.
It's a lot more subtle here. You can give a nuance to a joke and people will get it. Whereas, you know, I could go on stage and go, I'm fat and I'm just fat and every day I'm fat, but after I'm fat, then I'll be fat tomorrow, and it's fat. Whereas here, I've got to tell them why I'm fat, and then tell them why I ain't going to do nothing about my fat, and if you don't like my fat, it's your business.
Well, I think we complain a lot here. We're a lot more negative generally than you are. A sort of a natural point that we take is, here's the thing I'm rubbish at, let's all laugh at me, or isn't something we all do rubbish. Just lately,
I've been having quite a lot of feedback about my appearance. Apparently, I've got these really long arms, like an ape. And I look a bit like a head teacher of a primary school.
In America, I think, from what I've seen, is it seems to be a lot more positive and a lot more inclusive. And friends of mine have gigged out in America and said that it's really nice because the crowd, they're on your side. They want you to succeed straight away, and that might sound like it might sound crazy that people ever don't want you to succeed, but in Britain a lot of the time there is this sort of impress me attitude which you have to sort of go through.
So, hello Greenwich, you alright?
Yeah!
Or as my dyslexic wife would say, hello Greenwich, you alright? Doesn't affect her speech.
Sitcoms I'm more used to. I mean, there's some American sitcoms that are part of British culture as well. Friends, Cheers, Frasier, we've all grown up watching those. Stand-up comedy I'm not too sure of really. Stuff I've seen on TV seems a bit shouty. I think it's all down to cultural references, isn't it? There's things that we grew up with that American audiences wouldn't recognise. Britain is very insular. American culture kind of permeates around the world, so American comedians can say things about American culture that British comedians can't say about British culture because it hasn't infiltrated in the same way.
You ever seen those Match.com adverts on the tube? I don't really think they're putting out the right message about online dating. I saw one that said, I'm trying to pick out the perfect pair of shoes for the country pub date. It's not quite so low, but that's right. I think what she's trying to say is, I really want to wear heels, but I might have to run.
Like in America, England holds pride in their humor and the importance of live comedy to the country.
Oh, stand-up comedy totally fits into British culture, only because we are sarcastic, we get the deadpan side, we get that side of life which makes you want to, you know, not be nice or to take the Michael, you know, to take the mick, take the piss out of people. So it really does, because we always can see the other side of life.
the great British attitude of taking the mickey out of themselves, and comedy is very, very big at the moment.
Over the years, like stand-up comedy has changed, it's like evolved. It used to be like, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, it used to be like guys in clubs telling jokes, just telling jokes in old suits, and like you'd hear the same old jokes from the same old guys. But in terms of British culture, I think a lot of people still like live comedy, and a lot of people still like going out. In this day and age of like DVDs and home movie theatres and TV, there's still a huge market for like actually going out of an evening and seeing something live.
It's been a big part of our culture for a long, long time. I don't know why that is. I think we sort of rate ourselves as being quite funny, generally as having a very sort of unique kind of sense of humour. I'm not sure culturally where that comes from, but it's a big part of it. It's just an established part of what being British is. It's just, yeah, we think we're funny, so we can provide an industry to have a go at that.
I think it's pivotal. I think it's at the core of British culture. There's always been a, you know, even in the worst case scenario when things are really bad, like during the war, I think the thing that got people through was comedy. You know, making fun of you know, Hitler and things like that. It was that real, you know, that's what I think that it's fundamental to us. I think that makes sense. Yeah, it's key. I think it's at our core. Humour, you know, even now we're in the middle of a recession, but people are getting through it by making jokes about the fact that they haven't got any money and we have to go stealing.
It's a major part of British culture. There's comedy nights in every small town in the UK. There's comedy on TV all the time. We quote comedians all the time. And different parts of the country have their own different sense of humour. I think every part of the country thinks that they've got their own peculiar sense of humour, and so yeah, it's who we are.
From the small comedy shows at Up the Creek to making it onto telly, as the Brits would say, live comedy is all around London. There is distinctness to British humour that may not always translate to America or other parts of the world, but is a core part of British culture. The large comedy scene allows many the opportunity to give stand-up a go. There is a unique atmosphere when going to see a live comedy performance that can never be replaced by broadcasted comedy. This special experience will help keep live comedy alive in London, so it will remain the #1 destination for it for years to come.